He had $40 left. 2 20s, folded once, tucked into the front pocket of a jacket that had lost its zipper 3 winters ago. That was grocery money. That was Tuesday through Friday. That was the distance between his daughter eating dinner and his daughter not eating dinner. The homeless woman was standing at the corner of Bleecker and 9th, beside a bus stop bench she had clearly been sleeping on before the rain came. A trash bag sat at her feet, the kind with a knot tied at the top, the kind that holds everything a person owns when they no longer have a place to put it. Her coat was 3 sizes too big and had been patched at the elbows with duct tape. Her shoes were soaked through and did not match, one brown, one black. Her hair was wet and matted to her forehead in a way that told him she had not been dry in days. She was not asking for anything. She was just standing there because there was nowhere else to stand. He stopped walking. He looked at her. He reached into his pocket, pulled out both 20s, and held them toward her without a word. She looked at his hand, then at his face, then back at his hand. "You sure?" she said. Her voice was quiet, broken at the edges. "You don't look like you got much yourself." He said nothing. He placed the bills in her palm and closed her fingers around them. He did not know who he had just given his last $40 to. He would not find out until the next morning. That $40 was everything Marcus Boone had between today and Friday. He had no savings account. He had no credit card. He had $11.47 in a checking account that would be charged a $35 overdraft fee if he touched it again before his next deposit cleared. He was 31 years old, raising a 7-year-old daughter alone, and he had just handed a homeless stranger the only cash standing between his family and hunger. But to understand why he did what he did on that cold Wednesday morning, and why it mattered in ways he could not have imagined, you have to go back to the months before, when Marcus Boone was living a life that most people would not have chosen and he would not have traded for anything. Marcus worked the overnight shift at a commercial laundry facility on Draper Avenue, 6 nights a week. His shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6:15 a.m. He operated 2 industrial pressing machines that ran at 320 degrees and shook the floor hard enough to loosen the bolts in the ceiling panels above his station. He earned $13.75 an hour. Before taxes, that came to $4,455 a month. After taxes, health insurance for 2, and the garnishment from a hospital bill he was still paying from when his daughter Lily was born, he took home $2,740. Rent on the 1-bedroom apartment on Sycamore Street was $1,100. Utilities averaged $185. The laundromat 2 blocks south charged him $22 a week for his own laundry because the apartment had no machines. Groceries for 2 cost him between $280 and $340 a month, depending on whether Lily was in a growth spurt, which at 7 years old she almost always was. Her school required a uniform, navy polo shirt, khaki pants, and the shoes she needed had to be replaced every 4 months because her feet would not stop growing, and the brand the school approved cost $38 a pair at the outlet store on Miller Road. After everything, Marcus had between $40 and $90 left over each pay period. That margin was not comfortable. It was arithmetic. It was the distance between keeping the lights on and falling behind. And falling behind in Marcus Boone's life was not an abstraction. It was a specific number. It was $1,247, the amount he still owed Mercy General from a surgery Lily had needed at 14 months old. If he missed one more payment, the collection agency had told him in writing, the garnishment would increase from $210 to $380 a month, and that increase would end everything. So Marcus did not miss payments. He did not miss shifts. He did not eat breakfast most mornings because the $2.19 he saved by skipping it added up to $65 a month, and $65 a month was the difference between replacing Lily's shoes on time and sending her to school in sneakers that pinched her toes until she limped. His mornings were the same every day. He would get off work at 6:15, drive the 11 minutes home in a 2004 Honda Civic with 211,000 miles and a passenger window that no longer rolled down, park in the lot behind the building, and walk up 2 flights of stairs to the apartment. Mrs. Garza, who lived next door and watched Lily overnight in exchange for Marcus fixing things in her apartment when they broke, would be asleep on the couch. Lily would be asleep in the bedroom they shared. Marcus would set his boots by the door, check on Lily, cover her feet if the blanket had shifted, and then sit at the kitchen table for exactly 15 minutes before lying down on the couch Mrs. Garza had just left. He slept from 6:40 a.m. to 1:50 p.m. 6 hours and 10 minutes. That was all the math allowed. At 2 p.m. he would walk Lily home from Garfield Elementary, 4 blocks south. She talked the entire way. She talked about fractions and a boy named Devin who ate glue and a teacher named Miss Patton who let them read on beanbags on Fridays. Marcus listened to every word. He asked questions. He carried her backpack. He held her hand when they crossed Bleecker Street, which was the same corner where, 3 weeks later, he would meet a homeless woman in the rain and give away everything he had. Lily's mother had left when Lily was 9 months old. Her name was Janelle and she had not called, written, or sent money since. Marcus did not talk about it. When Lily asked, and she had asked 3 times, each time more quietly than the last, he said the same thing. Some people leave, baby. That's about them. Not about you. Not ever about you. He said it the same way every time. Calm. Still. Like a sentence he had practiced until the pain no longer showed in his voice. Marcus had been offered help before. His older brother Calvin had offered to send $500 a month. Marcus had said no. A church on Franklin Street had offered to put Lily in their free after-school program. Marcus had said no to that too, because the program ended at 5:30 and the church was 11 blocks from the apartment and he could not guarantee he would be awake in time to pick her up every day. And Marcus Boone did not make promises he could not keep. He kept his promises small. He kept them specific. And he kept every single one. That was the man who stood at the corner of Bleecker and 9th on a Wednesday morning in November with $40 in his pocket and rain soaking through a jacket that had lost its zipper 3 winters ago. That was the man who saw a homeless woman with a trash bag at her feet and shoes that did not match, and gave her everything he had left. The problem was that Friday was 2 days away, and now Marcus had nothing. By Wednesday afternoon, the $40 was already gone in a way that felt permanent. Not gone the way money disappears when you spend it on something forgettable. Gone the way a rope disappears when you let go of it over a ledge. He could still feel the shape of it in his pocket. He kept reaching for it. Once at the kitchen counter, once at the school gate, and each time his fingers found nothing but lining. He picked Lily up at 2 o'clock like always. She was holding a permission slip for a field trip to the Science Museum the following Tuesday. The cost was $12. He looked at the slip. He looked at the date. He folded it in half and put it in his back pocket and said, "We'll figure it out." She did not ask what that meant. She was 7, but she understood the weight of that sentence better than most adults would have. That evening, Marcus opened the refrigerator and counted what was there. For eggs, a partial loaf of bread, 7 slices, 2 of which had started to turn. A jar of peanut butter with maybe 3 servings left. Half a gallon of milk that was good until Thursday. A bag of rice on the shelf above the stove, about 2 cups worth. He did the math the way he always did the math, silently, precisely, without letting his face change. He could stretch it. Eggs and rice Wednesday night. Peanut butter sandwiches Thursday morning and afternoon. Milk for Lily both days. He would skip eating. He had done it before. It was not noble. It was arithmetic. At 9:45 p.m., before his shift started, he walked downstairs to check the mail. There was a notice from the power company. Not a shut-off warning. Worse, a rate increase effective December 1st. His monthly bill was going from $112 to $139. $27. That $27 might as well have been $2,700. He stood in the hallway under the fluorescent light that buzzed at a frequency he could feel in his teeth, and he read the notice twice. Then he folded it, put it in the same pocket where the permission slip already lived, and walked to his car. At the laundry facility that night, a man named Gerald who operated the machine next to his noticed something was different. Gerald had worked beside Marcus for 14 months. He knew when Marcus was quiet because he was tired, and he knew when Marcus was quiet because something else was happening. This was the second kind of quiet. "You good?" Gerald said, around 2 a.m., during the 15-minute break they took when the second load cycle finished. "Yeah. You don't look good. Didn't sleep well." Gerald watched him for a moment. Gerald was 53 years old and had raised 2 sons alone after his wife died of cancer in 2011. He recognized things in Marcus that Marcus did not show to anyone on purpose. "You need anything?" Gerald asked.
No.
"You sure?" "I'm sure." Marcus said it the way he said everything, short, steady, closed. Not because he did not trust Gerald. Because accepting help meant admitting the margin had finally failed, and admitting the margin had failed meant the system he had built, the shifts, the schedule, the math, the $65 saved from skipping breakfast, had a crack in it. And if it had a crack, it could break. And if it broke, Lily would feel it. So he said no. And he went back to the machines. Thursday morning, when he got home, Lily was already awake. Mrs. Garza was making her toast in the kitchen. Lily was sitting at the table with a piece of paper and a set of colored pencils. She had drawn a picture of a house. Not their apartment. A house. It had a red door, a triangle roof, a tree in the yard, and 2 stick figures holding hands in front of it. One tall, one small. The small one had a backpack. She turned it over when she heard him come in. Not fast. Not like she was hiding it. More like she was putting it away because it was a private thing and she was not ready to share it yet. "Morning, baby," Marcus said. "Morning, Daddy." He kissed the top of her head. He noticed the edge of the drawing sticking out from under her elbow. He said nothing. Mrs. Garza caught his eye from the counter. She tilted her head slightly, the way she did when she wanted to say something but was choosing not to. Marcus shook his head once. Tiny motion. She turned back to the toast. That afternoon, after he had walked Lily to school, Marcus drove back to the corner of Bleecker and 9th. He did not know why. He was not bringing more money, he had none. He was not looking for thanks. He just wanted to know if she was all right, if she had found shelter, if she had eaten. She was not there. The bus stop was empty. The trash bag was gone. The rain had stopped sometime in the night, and the only thing left on the bench was a folded piece of cardboard with 3 words written on it in pencil, in handwriting so small he almost missed them. "Thank you, sir." He stood there for a long time. He folded the cardboard once, put it in his jacket pocket beside Lily's permission slip and the power company notice, and walked back to his car. He told no one about the cardboard. Not Gerald. Not Mrs. Garza. Not Lily. He simply kept it. That night, during his shift, Marcus's phone buzzed once at 11:30 p.m. A text from the apartment management office. Automated. Rent was due in 6 days. $1,100. He had $11.47 in his account. His paycheck would deposit Friday at midnight, $684.50 after deductions. That left him $595.97 for rent plus the power bill increase plus groceries plus Lily's permission slip. The numbers did not work. They had never not worked before. They did not work now because of $40 he had given to a homeless woman in the rain whose name he did not know. He stood at his machine and watched the press come down, steam rising in a white curtain that smelled like starch and heat, and for the first time in a long time, Marcus wondered whether what he had done was the right thing. He did not regret it. That was the strange part. He did not regret it even as the numbers fell apart around him. He just wondered if a man who could not afford to feed his daughter had the right to be generous. He reached into his pocket. The piece of cardboard was still there. "Thank you, sir." He read it twice and put it back. Marcus came home Thursday morning at 6:22 a.m. with the cardboard in his pocket and a weight in his chest he could not name. He sat at the kitchen table while Lily ate her toast and went over the math one more time on the back of an envelope. Paycheck depositing at midnight, $684.50. Current balance, $11.47. Total Friday morning, $695.97. Rent due in 6 days, $1,100. Short buy, $404.03. Power bill increase coming December 1st, $27. Field trip permission slip, $12. Food for the next 3 days, $0 in his pocket. He had never been short on rent. Not once in 3 years. Not when Lily needed surgery. Not when the Civic's transmission failed and he had taken the bus for 2 months. Not when the grocery prices went up in the spring and he ate rice for 19 days straight. He had always made the number. Now he could not. At 10 a.m., before he tried to sleep, Marcus called his landlord. A man named Peter Dillard who owned the building and 12 others like it across the east side. Peter did not answer. Marcus left a message. He explained calmly and specifically that he would be $400 short and that he would have the remainder by the 15th. He asked for an extension. He had never asked for anything from Peter Dillard in 3 years. Peter called back at 12:15 p.m. Marcus had just fallen asleep. He answered on the second ring. Marcus, I got your message. Yes, sir. I can give you until the 10th. Not the 15th. The 10th. After that, I have to start the process. The process. That was the word landlords used when they meant eviction. Marcus had heard it before, not directed at him, but through the walls when Peter had spoken to the tenant in 4C 6 months ago. That tenant was gone within 30 days. The 10th, Marcus said. I understand. I'm not trying to be hard on you, but I got bills too. I know. He hung up. He stood in the kitchen for a long time. The fluorescent light over the sink buzzed. His hands were still. His face was still. Everything was still except the math running behind his eyes, which would not stop, which could not be made to stop, which kept arriving at the same number no matter how many times he rearranged it. $404.03 short. 6 days to find it. He did not sleep that afternoon. He sat at the kitchen table and considered calling Calvin. His brother had money. Calvin worked for a logistics company in Atlanta and made $78,000 a year and had offered repeatedly to help. Marcus had said no every time. Not because of pride exactly. Because of a promise he had made to himself when Janelle left, that he would build a life for Lily that did not depend on anyone who could also leave. Calvin was reliable. Calvin was generous. But Marcus had learned that depending on someone else's generosity meant living inside someone else's decision, and he had decided that Lily's stability would never live inside someone else's decision again. He picked up the phone. He put it down. He picked it up again. He set it on the counter and walked to the window and looked down at the parking lot where the Civic sat with its passenger window that would not close and its odometer frozen at a number that mechanics called borrowed time. He did not call Calvin. At 2 p.m., he walked to Garfield Elementary to pick up Lily. At the gate, she stopped and looked up at him. She did not say anything for a moment. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out the drawing, the one she had turned over Thursday morning. The house with the red door. The 2 stick figures. She held it out to him. This is for you, she said. For when you're sad. He took it. He looked at it. He folded it carefully and put it in his jacket pocket. The same pocket where the $40 had been, the same pocket where the cardboard now lived. Thank you, baby. She slipped her hand into his and they walked home. That evening, Marcus made Lily dinner from what was left in the refrigerator. 2 eggs scrambled with the last of the rice. A piece of toast cut into triangles the way she liked. A small glass of milk. She ate every bite. He told her he had eaten at work. He had not. After she was in bed, Marcus sat at the kitchen table and turned Lily's drawing over. On the back, in her handwriting, crooked and small, were 4 words. Our house one day. He put his head in his hands. Not because he was breaking, because the weight of everything, the rent, the eviction, the $40, the homeless woman in the rain, his daughter's quiet faith in a future he could not see, had settled on his shoulders all at once, and he needed one moment where he did not have to hold it upright. He gave himself 30 seconds. Then he lifted his head, put the drawing back in his pocket, and called Gerald. Hey, Marcus said. I need to ask you something. Anything. Marcus did not speak for a moment. He had not asked for help in 3 years. The words did not come easy. If I needed to borrow $400, just to get to the 15th, would you be able to? Yes, Gerald said. He did not wait for Marcus to finish the sentence. Yes. When do you need it? Marcus closed his eyes. Monday. It's yours. Gerald. It's yours, Marcus. Stop talking. The call ended. Marcus sat at the kitchen table with the phone in his hand and the weight on his shoulders shifted. Not gone, but shared. He had asked. He had let someone in. He had broken his own rule, and the world had not ended. He went to work that night without knowing that across town, in a building he had never been inside, a phone call was being made about him by a woman whose name he did not yet know. Marcus came home from his Thursday into Friday shift at 6:22 a.m. to find a black SUV parked at the curb outside his apartment building. Then another. Then a third. 3 black SUVs, engines running, parked in a row along Sycamore Street. A man in a dark suit stood beside the lead vehicle, hands folded, watching the street with the patient stillness of someone who had been waiting a long time and was prepared to wait longer. Marcus stopped on the sidewalk. He looked at the SUVs. He looked at the man in the suit. He looked back at the SUVs. The rear door of the middle vehicle opened. A woman stepped out. She was wearing a long navy coat that looked new, leather boots that were dry despite the morning dampness. Her hair was washed and pulled back. Her posture was straight. But it was her face Marcus recognized first. The same face he had seen at the bus stop on Wednesday morning. Only this time clean, this time fed, this time held together by something other than the rain. It was the homeless woman. She walked toward him slowly. She stopped 6 feet away. "You're hard to find," she said. Marcus did not move. He looked at her coat, at the SUVs, at her face. None of the pieces fit. "I don't understand," he said. "I know," she said. "May I tell you?" He nodded once. "My name is Diane Okafor. 3 weeks ago, I was the chief operating officer of a property development firm in Chicago. I had a husband, a son, an apartment on the 34th floor, and a life I thought belonged to me. 3 weeks ago, my husband filed for divorce, emptied our joint accounts, and changed the locks on the apartment while I was on a business trip. I came home to nothing. No clothes, no documents, no access. By the time the lawyers finished arguing about what was mine, I had been sleeping in a shelter on Wexler Street for 11 days. She paused. Her voice did not break, but it bent. On Wednesday morning, I left the shelter at 6 a.m. I had been walking since. I had no money. I had no phone. I had spent the last of what I had buying a sandwich for a man at the shelter the night before because he had a fever and the staff was understaffed. I was standing at the bus stop on Bleecker and 9th because I did not know where else to go. I had been awake for 31 hours. I had not eaten in 20. I was trying to decide whether to keep walking or to sit down on that bench and not get up again. She looked at him steadily. And then a man I had never seen before walked across the street in the rain and put $40 in my hand. He did not ask me what happened. He did not offer me advice. He did not look at me like I was a problem to be solved. He looked at me like I was a person. And then he left. Marcus said nothing. He could not speak. His hand had risen halfway to his jacket pocket, to the piece of cardboard that was still there, without him knowing it. "That $40, Diane said, bought me a hot meal, a bus ticket to my sister's house in Bridgeport, and a phone call to my old attorney. By Wednesday night, I was in a hotel my sister paid for. By Thursday morning, my attorney had filed an emergency motion to recover what was mine. By Thursday afternoon, the court had frozen my husband's accounts pending review and restored my access to my own holdings, which, it turns out, were never in his name to begin with. I am not poor, Marcus. I never was. I had simply forgotten where I had put my own power. Your $40 helped me remember." She reached into her coat and pulled out a white envelope with the seal of a law firm, Whitfield, Calder and Associates, printed across the top. "I spent yesterday afternoon making one phone call," she said, "and then a second, and then a third. I asked a man I have known for 20 years to find out who you were and where you lived. He told me 4 hours ago. I drove here through the night." She held the envelope out. Marcus did not take it. "Diane, please, open it." He took it with hands that had spent years operating industrial pressing machines and had never trembled, and that morning would not stop trembling. He opened the flap. Inside was a single document, property deed. His name, Marcus Allen Boone, printed on the 3rd line. The address, 714 Cedarwood Lane. 3-bedroom, single-family residence, 1,640 square feet. Fully furnished. He read it twice. The third time, his lips moved slightly on the third reading, the way they do when the brain is trying to make language out of something that does not feel like language anymore. The house is yours, Diane said. Free and clear. No mortgage. Property taxes prepaid for 5 years. It is 4 blocks from your daughter's school. The deed was transferred at 11 p.m. last night. Marcus looked up from the document. His eyes were wet, but his face had not moved. The stillness was not composure. It was shock so deep it had nowhere to go. I don't understand, he said again. You gave me $40 when you had nothing, Diane said. I gave you a house when I had everything. That is not generosity. That is balance. The world owes you nothing, Marcus. But I do. Gerald, who had pulled into the parking lot in his old pickup and stopped 20 feet away when he saw the SUVs, stood watching with both hands in his jacket pockets. His mouth was open. He did not say a word. He did not need to. The look on his face, disbelief shifting slowly into something quieter, something that looked like justice arriving exactly on time, said everything. Mrs. Garza appeared at the second-floor window. She had heard voices. She looked down at the scene. Marcus holding a piece of paper, the woman in the navy coat, the 3 black SUVs lined up along the curb, and she pressed her hand against the glass the way people press their hands against windows when they are watching something they want to be part of but know they are meant to witness. You treated me like a person on the worst day of my life, Diane said. You did not ask what happened. You did not perform it. You just gave. That is the rarest thing I have ever been given. Marcus looked at her. He held the deed in both hands now. His fingers had creased the edges slightly without him noticing. I was just doing what felt right, he said. 7 words. That was all. Diane nodded. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a second envelope. Smaller, thinner. This is a trust fund for your daughter's education. It will cover tuition through college. It was set up last night. Marcus's hands began to shake. Not dramatically. Not visibly to someone standing more than 3 feet away. But Diane was standing 3 feet away, and she saw it, and she did not look away from it. Why? Marcus said. Because you reminded me what kindness costs, she said, and what it returns. At 7:15 a.m., Lily came down the stairs in her navy polo and khaki pants, backpack over one shoulder, ready for school. She stopped at the bottom step. She looked at the woman. She looked at the SUVs. She looked at her father. She did not ask what was happening. She walked to Marcus and stood beside him and took his hand. She looked up at Diane, then back at her father. She studied his face the way children study faces when they are trying to read something that adults are trying not to show. Then she looked at the piece of paper in his other hand. She could not read all the words from where she stood, but she saw his name, and she saw the word deed. And she looked up at him with an expression that was not excitement or confusion or joy, but something older than all of those, recognition. As if the drawing she had made, the house with the red door and the 2 stick figures, had stepped off the paper and into the morning. 6 months later, Marcus and Lily were living at 714 Cedarwood Lane. The house had a red front door, not because Diane had known about the drawing, but because it had always been red, and some things simply arrive in the shape you imagine them. Marcus still worked at the laundry facility. He had not quit. Gerald had asked him why, and Marcus had said, because the work is honest and I'm good at it. He had, however, dropped to 5 nights a week. The 6th night, the one he had always used to close the gap between survival and catastrophe, he now spent at home, on the couch, with Lily, watching whatever she wanted to watch, which was usually a nature documentary about ocean animals or a baking competition she narrated as though she were the judge. Gerald never let Marcus pay him back the $400 he had offered. You already paid it, he said, the first Saturday he came over for dinner. You paid it on a corner in the rain. The Civic was still in the driveway. Marcus had been offered a new car as part of the gift, but he had declined. The passenger window still did not roll down. Lily said it gave the car character. Mrs. Garza came over for dinner every Sunday. Diane Okafor sent Lily a birthday card in March with a handwritten note inside. Your father gave me something money cannot buy. I hope one day you understand what that means. Lily pinned the card to the corkboard above her desk in her own bedroom. Her first bedroom in her first house, beside the drawing of the red door, which she had never taken down. One evening in July, Marcus was standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes when Lily came in and sat on the counter beside him. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Daddy, Miss Patton told us today that good people don't always get good things back." Marcus turned off the water. He dried his hands slowly. He looked at her. "She's right," he said. "Then why did we get good things back?" He thought about it for a long time. Then he said, "We didn't get them back, baby. They just showed up. And they might not have. And I would have done the same thing either way." She looked at him. She nodded once. She slid off the counter and walked back to her room. If Marcus had known who Diane Okafor was before he reached into his pocket that morning, if he had known about the law firm and the property holdings and the black SUVs waiting on the other side of one bus ticket, would his $40 have meant the same thing? Would it have been kindness, or would it have been investment? That is the question worth sitting with. Not because the answer is easy, because it isn't.